What if a funeral was not a mourning of death, but a breathtaking celebration of life? Witness the sacred and colorful world of Bali's Ngaben ceremony, where the journey to eternity is filled with music, fire, and an explosion of tradition you will never forget. If you enjoyed this journey into Bali's sacred traditions, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more beautiful stories from around the world. Your support helps us share these timeless cultures with everyone. The sun rose gently over the island of Bali, casting a golden glow over the lush landscapes. It was another ordinary day for the locals, but for me, a long-time resident who had lived here for 4 years, today was anything but ordinary. I was about to witness a sacred tradition I had only heard whispers about: the Ngaben ceremony, the Balinese cremation ritual that transforms mourning into celebration. I had always seen colorful parades from a distance, with music and towering structures weaving through the village streets. But today, I was stepping inside this world, guided by my local friend Bayu. A cheerful man with a broad smile, Bayu promised to help me understand the deeper meaning behind this mysterious ritual. Before joining the ceremony, there was one important rule to follow: wearing the traditional Balinese attire. Bayu took me to a small tailor nearby, where I was dressed in a crisp white shirt, a colorful sash, and a headpiece called yuding. The moment I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Somehow, the outfit carried a silent dignity, a sense of belonging to something ancient and profound. As we stepped out onto the dusty road, the sounds of distant gamelan music drifted through the air. My heart raced. I was about to witness something few outsiders truly understood. The journey to the family's home had begun. We walked through narrow alleyways lined with frangipani trees, their petals falling like soft snow around our feet. In the distance, a large canopy had been set up in front of a family compound, buzzing with activity. This was the house of mourning, where friends, relatives, and neighbors gathered to pay their respects. Bayu led me through the crowd and introduced me to the host, a man named Agung Ditya. His eyes carried the weight of loss but also a quiet acceptance. His beloved grandmother had passed away, and today marked the beginning of her final journey. I watched in awe as neighbors arrived carrying bundles of offerings, sacks of rice, coffee beans, sugar, and fruits. It was a beautiful gesture, offering support not just emotionally, but practically to the grieving family. In return, the family served drinks, light snacks, and warm meals to everyone who came. It was a cycle of giving and receiving, a dance of kindness amid sorrow. Bayu smiled and grabbed a traditional instrument. He was part of the small orchestra playing lively Balinese melodies. Music filled the air, not with sadness, but with a spirit of life and renewal. The heart of the ceremony was not in the mourning but in the celebration, a belief that death was not the end, but a new beginning. Here death was a doorway, not a wall. Suddenly, the air grew still. The first major ritual of the day was about to begin: the ceremonial bathing of the departed. The crowd gathered in a circle, giving space for a ritual that felt both ancient and intimate. At the center lay the body of Agung Ditya's grandmother, prepared with gentle care and wrapped in a white shroud. Beside her stood a pamanku, the village priest, dressed in pristine ceremonial robes, ready to lead the sacred rites. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense and the soft murmur of prayers. I stood silently among the others, feeling the weight of the moment settle deep into my chest. With great reverence, the family and the villagers assisted in bathing the body. Buckets of fresh water, scented with flowers, were poured slowly over her, as the pamanku chanted ancient mantras. Each drop of water was believed to purify her spirit, washing away the last ties to the mortal world. This ritual was not hidden behind closed doors. It was open, communal, and filled with love. Everyone present had the chance to offer a final farewell, a moment to see the face of the departed one last time and whisper silent prayers into the breeze. I watched as the family members gently dried her with white cloths, their hands steady even as tears welled in their eyes. The body was then placed back carefully into a temporary coffin, adorned with fresh flowers and woven fabrics. The pamanku continued to pray, blessing the spirit's journey into the afterlife. Nearby, elders were already consulting the village calendar, searching for the most auspicious day for the cremation to proceed. In Bali, timing was sacred. The universe had to be perfectly aligned to guide a soul safely home. But before the final farewell, a grand spectacle awaited, something that would turn the quiet village into a river of colors, music, and flames. The days passed in a blur of preparation. Villagers worked together, weaving bamboo frames, painting intricate designs, and assembling towering structures that seemed to scrape the sky. There was a feeling of excitement in the air, as if a great festival was about to begin. At the heart of it all stood two magnificent creations: the lembu, a giant black bull crafted from bamboo, wood, and paper, and the bade, a multi-level ceremonial tower draped in vivid colors and gold leaf. These were not mere decorations. They were sacred vessels, designed to carry the spirit of Agung Ditya's grandmother into the next world. The lembu symbolized purity and strength. Its body was built hollow, ready to receive the departed for the final rite of passage. The bade was even taller, carried on the shoulders of dozens of strong men, swaying and dancing with the energy of the living. Vayu explained to me that building a proper lembu and bade was not cheap. Some ceremonies could cost hundreds of millions, even billions of rupiah. Families often saved for years or held communal Ngaben ceremonies to share the expenses. But for Balinese Hindus, this was a sacred duty, honoring their loved ones with the grandest send-off they could offer. As the final touches were put on the structures, Bayu handed me a special ceremonial outfit made just for the day. It was an honor, he said, for outsiders to be dressed in full ceremonial clothing. I bowed in gratitude, humbled to be allowed so deeply into their sacred world. The stage was set. The village buzzed with anticipation. Tomorrow would be the day when the spirit would ride on the back of fire toward eternal freedom. And the whole island would seem to tremble with the echoes of ancient songs. The morning sun rose, and the village was already alive with colors, music, and laughter. Today was the pinnacle of the Ngaben ceremony, the day when the spirit would make its fiery journey back to the universe. Dressed in full ceremonial attire, I joined the growing crowd. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense, frangipani flowers, and offerings laid carefully along the path. Traditional gamelan music thundered through the village, a hypnotic rhythm of drums, gongs, and flutes. At the heart of the procession stood the towering bade and the majestic lembu. Men hoisted the structures onto their shoulders, swaying rhythmically to the beat of the music. It was a powerful sight, hundreds of people moving as one, carrying not just a physical body, but the weight of their love, their prayers, and their hopes for the spirit's safe passage. Agung Ditya's grandson, wearing a solemn expression, climbed onto the lembu to represent the family. His small figure against the enormous black bull was a symbol of human fragility, standing before the mysteries of life and death. The entire village joined in, shouting encouragements, clapping to the beat, and laughing joyously. The procession moved through the narrow streets, twisting and turning deliberately to confuse evil spirits that might try to follow the departing soul. I could barely keep up, swept along by the energy of the moment. The colorful crowd, the intense music, the dazzling golds and reds of the bade. It was overwhelming yet mesmerizing. Every detail, from the smallest offering to the grandest tower, seemed to weave together into one breathtaking tapestry of devotion and farewell. Ahead, at the edge of the village, the cremation ground awaited. The final chapter of this sacred journey was about to begin. As we neared the open field at the edge of the village, the crowd slowed, and the music softened into a low, steady pulse. This was the cremation ground, a sacred space where the final rites would unfold under the wide Balinese sky. The lembu and bade were carefully placed at the center of the field. Offerings surrounded them: fruits, flowers, woven palm leaf decorations, and bowls of fragrant incense smoke that curled into the air like silent prayers. The pamanku stood before the structures, his voice rising in melodic chants that seemed to vibrate through the earth itself. Bayu whispered to me that these prayers were invocations, asking the gods and ancestors to welcome the soul, to protect it as it crossed the invisible river between worlds. Family members stepped forward one by one, carrying symbolic items: cloth, jewelry, and photographs, placing them inside the lembu along with the body. Every object was carefully chosen, each holding memories and love, helping to ease the spirit's journey. Then came the most solemn moment. With ritual precision, the bade was opened, and the body, wrapped in ceremonial white cloth, was gently transferred into the hollow body of the lembu. There was no rush, no sadness displayed in tears. Only dignity, reverence, and a powerful silent hope. As the preparations neared completion, villagers busied themselves building small fires at strategic points around the field. Musicians tuned their instruments. Children clung to their mothers' sarongs, eyes wide with wonder. The air grew heavier, the sun now hanging low and golden over the horizon. Soon the fire would be lit, and the spirit would be set free. The moment had arrived. A hush fell over the crowd as the pamanku raised his hand in blessing. Time itself seemed to slow. With a careful motion, a torch was brought forward, its flame flickering wildly against the evening breeze. The priest lit the first corner of the lembu, and within seconds, fire leapt to life, crackling and snapping, devouring the dry bamboo and delicate decorations. The flames grew quickly, illuminating the faces of everyone present. Shadows danced across the field, and the sound of the fire roared louder than the drums. The great black bull, once so grand and solid, began to collapse inward as it burned, its smoke curling into the dusky sky. Inside the raging fire, Agung Ditya's grandmother's body returned to the elements: earth, fire, air, and spirit. It was not seen as destruction. It was a sacred transformation, a release, a return to the source of all life. Families stood close together, hands pressed in prayer, while musicians played a rhythm that was both haunting and beautiful. Children watched in wide-eyed silence, witnessing the mysteries that their ancestors had honored for generations. The villagers moved in coordinated patterns around the fire, throwing handfuls of flower petals and splashes of holy water into the flames, feeding the spirit's journey with love and devotion. The fire climbed higher and higher, reaching toward the heavens, a golden pillar connecting the seen and unseen worlds. And then, slowly, after nearly an hour of burning, the flames began to soften, leaving only glowing embers and gentle smoke behind. The spirit had flown, but the journey was not yet complete. As the fire faded into a bed of soft, glowing embers, the villagers approached the remains with silent reverence. In their hands, they carried small tools, bamboo tongs and woven baskets, to collect what was left behind. Slowly and patiently, they sifted through the ashes, gathering fragments of bone and bits of charred offerings. Each piece was treated with tenderness, as if cradling the final physical memories of a beloved life. The family moved carefully, following the guidance of the pamanku, who continued chanting prayers. The ritual was exact and beautiful, a dance of gratitude and farewell. No tear was shed openly, but the air was heavy with a deep, sacred emotion that words could never fully express. Bayu explained softly that every shard and grain of ash held significance. Nothing was wasted, nothing was forgotten. Every part would accompany the spirit on its final voyage. Once the ashes were gathered, they were placed inside simple white urns, wrapped again in white cloths. The baskets were adorned with flower petals, fragrant leaves, and delicate offerings made from young coconut leaves, all crafted with hands that spoke of love. Around us, the field began to return to silence. The musicians rested their instruments. The sun had nearly set, painting the sky in strokes of crimson and gold. But there was still one final step in the journey. The ashes were not meant to stay on land. They belonged to the vast embrace of the ocean. And so, with solemn steps, we prepared for the last sacred procession. The village path wound gently toward the shore, where the wide open sea shimmered under the last light of the setting sun. Carrying the urns of ash and bone, the family walked in a slow, rhythmic procession. They were accompanied by the gentle sound of a small drum and the soft chanting of prayers, barely louder than the whispers of the wind. Children and elders alike joined the solemn march. Some carried offerings made of fruit and flowers, others held burning incense that left fragrant trails in the air behind them. Every step forward was a step closer to completing the sacred duty of returning the spirit to the cosmos. As we approached the shoreline, the scent of salt and seaweed grew stronger. Waves lapped softly against the sand, as if the ocean itself was waiting to welcome the soul home. The family members waded carefully into the shallow water, holding the urns close to their hearts. The Pamanku stood at the edge of the tide, his voice rising in one final blessing, asking the elements to receive the spirit with kindness and peace. One by one, the urns were opened. With slow, deliberate movements, the ashes were released into the sea. The fine gray powder floated briefly atop the waves, then sank and dissolved, vanishing into the endless blue. It was a moment of pure surrender, of letting go and trusting that the spirit had found its way back to the eternal. Above us, the sky deepened into indigo, and the first stars began to appear, winking gently as if in silent approval. The journey was nearly complete, but there was one more moment of reflection before the villagers would return home. As the last traces of ash disappeared into the sea, the family and villagers remained for a while at the water's edge. They stood together in quiet reflection, listening to the soft rhythm of the waves and feeling the cool night air brush against their skin. The ceremony had ended, but the meaning lingered, weaving itself into every breath, every heartbeat. In Bali, death was not the end of a life. It was a passage, a sacred return to the source, a merging back into the great cycle of existence. The villagers lit small candles along the beach, letting them drift onto the water's surface. Tiny flames floated like stars on the ocean, carrying prayers of gratitude, hope, and peace into the night. Behind us, the village began to stir again. Laughter and music returned, softer now, but filled with warmth. Families embraced, children played along the sand, and elders told stories under the moonlight. Life, vibrant and enduring, continued to bloom even after farewell. I stood silently, taking it all in. The beauty of the Ngaben ceremony was overwhelming, not only for its vibrant colors and ancient traditions, but for the wisdom it carried. Here in the heart of Bali, people celebrated life by honoring death, and in doing so, they touched something eternal. The last candle drifted beyond the surf, its flame steady against the vastness of the sea. And the stars above shone a little brighter.